Okay, well, we have a very esteemed panel gathered here of insightful leaders, and we're looking forward to a robust discussion of how AI is specifically transforming maritime operations. So we're going to start with a broad question, and Brian, I'm actually going to send it to you first, so just be on notice there. We're going to start with the industry perspective, and then we'll cover back over to Jay and Stephen. And the question is, as you reflect on naval supply chain, logistics, fleet readiness, where do you see the greatest potential for AI transformation as it relates to maritime ops?
Yeah, thanks, Brooke. I think it's very simple for me. It's speed through coordination of information. We have an enormous amount of work in front of us in shipbuilding and ship repair, and communications through a very complex set of processes is where we're struggling the most. So the better we can have transparent data moving between all these disparate systems, the faster we can deliver our ships to our Navy customer.
Thanks, Brian. And Don, what would you add to that from the Austal perspective?
Yeah, I would definitely say, just like Newport News is uplifting their digital infrastructure, we at Austal are doing that as well, with some help from the MIB. So some MIB funding with co-share of investment from Austal. But I think the uplift of the digital infrastructure and AI now on top of that digital infrastructure, we had to upgrade our infrastructure to actually overlay AI. And I agree with Brian that transparency and then the analytics that you're going to get with that upgrade is going to be tremendous. So they're probably a little bit further ahead than we are, but we're right behind them. So we're doing I think a great job of that data transfer, that data technology all the way throughout the supply chain.
Great. And Jay, what would you add from a little bit of a different perspective, given your previous roles?
So first of all, that music was great coming on here. So that was, I don't know if you had something to do with that or not.
I cannot take no credit for the music, but I agree it was good.
But from, although not in the Navy, from more of a naval perspective, the shipyards are important, the repair yards just as important, and so being able to get that cradle to grave, transformation of data and information from the builders all the way through to the people actually repairing the ships in the fleet and making sure they're out there. I think that change from paper to digital, and then obviously, as you mentioned, Don, the AI on top of that is really going to be the big transformation, get cradle to grave information through a program.
Yeah, no, very insightful, Jay. And Stephen, what would you add? I mean, you also have a unique role, given your leadership of the BlueForge Alliance. How do you think about the potential for AI transformation overall?
Well, I think the first thing that I'm sure other speakers here have mentioned as well, leading up to our panel, have mentioned is the issuing of a consistent, credible demand signal from government to industry. Obviously, that starts with Congress. That also starts with the Department of Defense, DBA, Department of War, operating in good working order, flowing contracts as they're supposed to flow. We saw General Hyten up here just a moment ago talking about these excellent pilots, numerous pilots, still in pilot mode, contracts not transitioning or never really dying either, kind of being in a zombie land. So I think AI in and of itself is an enabler. It's not going to save you, and it's not going to save me either. And mind you, I'm among other things, I'm also an active venture investor. I lead defense investing for a $6 billion defense fund, and I'm in a lot of these companies myself. And I see this over and over again where a company will come in and they'll say, our solution can solve X, Y, Z. And you sit there and they'll say the total addressable market for our solution, say for like maritime operations, right, which is the point of this panel, is $78 billion. And I say, no, it's not. It's not $78 billion. There can't be 12 winners of you. There can only be one winner of you, or maybe two or three. So then how do you build, and I think this is from a Navy leadership perspective, how do you send a consistent, credible demand signal to industry when it comes to AI-enabled systems? And then how also do you, at least with that demand signal, which is in the form of dollars, right? Like that's how we operate, in the form of dollars and policy aligned with those dollars, how do you then also provide some industrial policy leadership in this case to the MIB, the Maritime Industrial Base, to help them understand how to align or not align to what Navy leadership says that it wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I actually want to pick up on what you're talking about, in terms of AI and technology being part of the solution, but it's not just tech, right? And let's be honest, shipbuilding and sustainment isn't exactly an industry known for its speed and its agility. Yeah. So how do you all think about some of the cultural changes that would be required to really embrace the opportunity here and get full value from technology? It'd be great to hear maybe a couple stories, given what you all see on the front lines, if you will. And Brian, I see you nodding, so not to pick on you again, but I'll go to you first for your riff on this one. Sure.
So just to tell a story, at Newport News right now, we're in the process of building over 30 different ships. All have different spans, all have different contracting vehicles. We have an enormous amount of inexperience in our workforce. We have a challenged supply base. We have antiquated processes, and we need to do better. So as General Heitens was talking about, we do not want to be a technology company. I want to be a technology practitioner. So we partnered with C3 to come in and help us get faster, get parts through our facility to our ships faster. What we're learning in less than 3 months is we have a lot of work to do. I'm going to challenge some terms. I know AI is a generic term. I don't need artificial intelligence. I have a lot of artificial intelligence. I've got dozens of production control people passing spreadsheets back and forth, trying to give me the best build plan. There's a lot of hallucinations in that. There's a lot of artificial intelligence in that. I need real intelligence that gives me the optimum build plan to support the priorities that we have. Data is nothing but a residue of your process. And we're finding that our data is very immature. In some cases, it's, I wish it was written down somewhere that we can ingest it. Some of it's tribal, some of it's just passed back and forth verbally. So the discipline to be able to be better starts with cleaning that up and being better to go faster. The cultural change, one of the things that we're really focused on is that this isn't a C3 project. This isn't something being done to us. This is something we're doing and we're leading, and we brought a partner in to get better. When you get down into our shops, there's a lot of pride about how they do their work. When you challenge, you can do it better, you should do it different. Getting them to adopt that is one of our biggest challenges. So as we're going through this journey, one of our work streams is process and behaviors, and we've put some strong leaders in that to really drive the leadership in those shops to say, we own this, we're going to get the value out of it that we put into the deployment. So the cultural changes that have to be done are probably 10 times the challenge of the mathematical optimizer that's being done. I will trust the math a lot more than I trust the knowledge of the people in our shops making decisions. We have 17 different shops, 2,300 people. They have to do 5,200 jobs a week, and each one of those jobs has 32 different data sources. So you're talking hundreds of thousands of decisions are trying to be made by about 100 people in spreadsheets. The results you have are really built on the process you have, and we need a new process. And I don't want to bring a bunch of system engineers and hardwire processes. I want C3 to help us reimagine our processes in a more virtual way to get us better results. And I'm telling you, I've held almost every job at Newport News Shipbuilding. I've never seen the speed of results that we're starting to see. Within 3 months, we're starting to see output that I didn't think was going to be possible. I think we're shocked at how fast we're going. And that needs to translate into the business and the results. The Navy, I can't tell you how many PEOs have asked, when am I going to see faster submarine builds? When am I going to see faster carrier builds? The MIB team was with us all day yesterday. When am I getting results? I need results. If we can start to show results with something that big and complex within 3 months, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I think I mean, having had the privilege of seeing some of that up close and in person, I agree. There are some exciting things happening for sure. Donna, what would you say from your perspective at Austal? And Austal's been known as an innovator. How have you thought about this cultural piece to try to make way for more adoption of AI and broader technology?
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a cultural shift. It's also a workforce upskilling that is ongoing right now as we uplift our digital infrastructure. I'd probably like, relative to just telling a little story about additive, right? So we are the Additive Manufacturing Center of Excellence. We prime that. Our funding comes through BlueForge, so thank you very much, Stephen. And so that, that is, if you take a look at the journey that we've been on over the last I'm going to call it 26, 27 months of turning the lights on in an empty facility to then where we've come today and the ability to get there with some of the products that we've leveraged out of C3 AI and the partnership. So we had a vacant building. We built bought machines, basically upskilled the workforce for additive, both laser powder bed as well as DED, heat treatment, and then subtractive as well as metrology and other quality assurance type applications. So throughout that process, today we're now building. I just checked 24 parts simultaneously building, Jay. So that's pretty good. From 0 to 24 simultaneous parts being built. And it's not just us; it's the network. So we're activating partners throughout the network to be able to scale. When Admiral Kilby was in Danville 2 months ago, he asked me 3 questions, and it was all about scalability, scalability, scalability. So how do we get there quicker? I think, as most of you know, at the height of the Cold War, there were over 2,000 casting and forging foundries. There's less than 400 today. There's just not enough casting and forging foundries out there. So it's putting a lot of pressure on converting those into additive. We need to build out the network. One entity can't do it all. We've got to scale that. So we're activating other partners and bringing their quality systems to life. And we also have a digital ecosystem that we've built with C3 AI to be able to push parts out quickly, to be able to give the MIB basically a scorecard as to what's being built where, and complete visibility into the supply chain. So we're building out that supply chain to be able to very quickly produce parts using additives so that we're not stopping any submarine builds, that we're able to stay on track, and we're delivering to Newport News, we're delivering to Electric Boat, and we're delivering to sustainment as Ohio-class submarines that were designed for 35 years, now 40, 45 years in service. Most of those suppliers have all gone out of, there's non-existent. So we're using and employing additive. That's an ability, but again, you really need the digital ecosystem to be able to turn parts very quickly. So I would say that's kind of our story relative to Austal and what we've been able to provide, and that little niche that literally a key niche that we've been able to provide to the MIB and to the submarine community and surface community now. So
yeah. And Jay, again, drawing on your unique perspective from your previous role in particular, how do you see the trend line of cultural change? Do you see it headed in the right direction? What are some of the big shifts that you still think need to be made for the Navy and its partners as you think about AI adoption?
Yes, so I think the key to it is not necessarily AI, it's that digital infrastructure being put in place. And one little story I'll give you, on the naval shipyards, the shipyard infrastructure and optimization program, the SIOP, that upgrade to the 4 naval shipyards. I remember going through reviews of that and asking, where's the digital backbone? Where's the 5G? Where's the thing that's going to connect everybody together? The project started with, a new dry dock and a new crane and whatever else. And it's like, no, we got to get the digital piece in there, which I'm happy to say is in now, part of the SIOP program, even though that's a very long program. But the thought process, it wasn't even the thought process of the folks designing the new naval shipyards. So I would say the private shipyards, it is. You heard it from my two colleagues here. It's in their DNA right now to get that digital backbone in place, so then all of the advantages that come out of it will ride on top of that. Maybe a little bit to Brian's point there, what we don't want to do is we need to make sure, well, first of all, we need to make sure the data is actually useful and good. What we don't want to do is the garbage in, garbage out part.
Right.
And there's lots of data. I think there's more data than we know what to do with. It just isn't always good or integrated data. So I would just share that observation too.
Yeah, no, for sure on the data point. And I guess, Stephen, again, from your vantage point, how do you think about, from a BlueForge Alliance perspective, incenting some of the cultural change into the system? I mean, you work across various stakeholder groups. How do you drive for change in that environment?
So BlueForge Alliance was stood up at the tail end of the first Trump administration, and really to do three basic things: workforce development, supply chain development, right, and new technology integration, right? Three things. And we have to do those three things. The motto we have is to be the silent servants to the silent service. So that also involves us not spotlighting or showboating ourselves, which, as you know, in DC is actually a poor business model, but really to help enable our partners on the stage here and others. Above the waterline efforts that you see a lot of include the buildsubmarines.com, and we build giants and other things like that. And I think that's that has generated increasingly strong results. I think 9,800 new workers into the MIB and the SIB in year one, 14,000 in year two. So we need 140,000 plus, although that number seems to be growing as well over 10 years. But we are generally on trend line, so we're doing things, I think, well. So how does capability like C3 AI, how does that interface with the physical realm and, frankly, the physical reality of 19th century shipyards in many cases? And that requires an exceptional level of coordination between certainly us on this panel here, but also all of you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's incredibly well said, Stephen. And Jay, I see you nodding your head. I would love for you to build on that, if you will, and talk a little bit about, I mean, Stephen, what I hear you reflecting on is almost some of the reputational issues surrounding shipbuilding and getting young talent, right, into the door, and then also understanding how do you bring those two things together, the physical and the digital, in a way that actually leads to better outcomes, like more throughput, operational efficiency. What's your reflection on that, Jay?
So I guess I'll divert a little bit to your last question a little bit too, but the culture, I think the shipyards are actually, from what I can see, embracing the culture and getting the next generation in.
Yeah.
Lost the last generation, so there's kind of this gap in the middle. But I think as time goes on, that middle workforce gap will be more adopted to the newer ways, if you will, and I think the digital will become more easy to adapt in the shipyards. Public shipyards, maybe not as fast as private shipyards. But what I would say, the cultural place that hasn't changed really is the Pentagon. There was the creation of the MIB. That was a good recognition. But right now, the only funding for the MIB is really submarine funding, submarine mission. Really isn't too much on the surface ship side. And then when it comes to the shipyards, which typically have 3 or 4 or 5 different resource sponsors ultimately for their programs, well, who's going to pay for that, right? Because it always comes down to who's going to pay for that. And while it might be recognized, there's a bill to go digitize and get the data and get it cleaned up and use it more efficiently and effectively, somebody has to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so that part of the cultural change, I don't think has happened yet.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is a very fair thing to point out, and obviously a challenge as we think about investing in innovation going forward. I want to turn a little bit back to you, Brian, and talk a little. You told a couple stories, right, about how to drive change in the shipyard. You've had several leadership roles at Newport News. You're currently the CTO there. How do you see the potential for AI and more broadly digital really allowing the shipyard to work in a more cross-functional way? everything from early design, right, to production and sustainment. How does that come to be more integrated through the use of technology?
I think that relying on very rigid processes and experience in all those processes is one of our biggest challenges. Our programs sometimes last 15 years. One ship can be from initial advanced procurement to delivery 15 years. So you can imagine the amount of turnover that you get, the knowledge that comes and goes, and trying to build those into our ERP system has been our approach up until now. And as good as SAP is, it does not give you the gap closure that we need. So bringing AI tools in, I think, can be a replicator for a lot of that subject matter expertise to keep things tied together. Our current project, you know, I've got a lot of scars over my career for, you know, death by prototypes. We prototype and prototype, and you get little successes, but the needle never moves. So our approach right now on AI is to take how we put people to work and use the smartest people in the AI industry, with C3 coming in, to tell us what to go work. We'll tell them what our priorities are, but the output of the optimizer will tell us what to go work. And that's going to take out all of the subjectivity of all those people, whether it's on our engineering, supply chain, our manufacturing, planning, production control teams. Eliminate the information sharing and let them focus on the core business that they're doing. By the end of this year, our plan is to have every single person in our manufacturing shop, 17 different businesses basically across 550 acres, doing work based on the output of what AI tells us to go do. At the end of 26, all of the people working on all of our ships will be directed by what AI tells us to do. So we're jumping in the deep end of the pool. I know I have a tendency to get over my skis and boil the ocean, but if we don't do something rapidly, we are not going to supply the Navy with the ships they need. So I think we're on a good trajectory. All of that entire value chain, that getting to the point where you put a mechanic to work and really getting a clear to build signal, we got to reinvent our business processes and eliminate the silos. And I think that's where AI can be an enormous leap forward without a massive investment. I mean, we've tried everything we can with brick and mortar. I mean, our facility looks completely different, but all that's done is added complexity to decisions, and we haven't done anything to help with optimization of the decisions. So I think what we're seeing from our current approach is we're going to be smarter about what we do and when we do it, and then the data is also going to tell us where the constraints are, and it's going to be a lot more surgical. I've got a problem here. The thing that keeps us from building submarines at the pace that they need to be built right now comes down to 17 parts. 17 parts drive an enormous increase in submarine build. And those 17 parts come from a foundry that isn't able to get us the parts to put one piece of complex equipment together. So we're in the midst right now of using that data and aggressively working with the Navy to go print those parts and radically change how we deliver submarine builds. This isn't a destination, it's a journey. And using this data and reacting to it at speed is what we need our leadership calories spent on. That is what AI is going to do. It's going to give us, it's going to set the plate for what we need to go work on to get better every day. We think we know that today, but I can get the 10 smartest people in the shipyard in the room, and I'll get 10 different answers on what the problem is. I've done that. I've been part of that problem. So
it's good self-awareness. So we only have probably time for one more question. I want to make it one that all the panelists opine on. And so I want to, again, we started kind of high level. I also want to start or end with more of a future forward question, which is shipyard of the future. It's 2035, let's say, 10 years from now. If you were to walk into a shipyard today, what would you want to see? And that could be everything from the talent to the technology to the workflows and the processes. How would you, and this is more of an aspirational view, what would you want to see in the shipyard of the future, 2035? And Steve, I'll start with you on this one.
Well, apart from all of us still speaking English, I would love to see a common operating picture of the supply chain down to the second and preferably third order. Like, where are we getting all of our parts from? Where are our vendors? Frankly, who are our vendors? And then have that matched to workstations or divisions within shipyards. If there was some way to generate a graphic user interface, and then this is where the digital and physical unify, is it's not, there's going to require significant investment and focus, I think, from the shipbuilders to then bring the physical infrastructure of the shipyard in alignment with that vision.
Great. Jay?
So I've never been there. I would like it to be like a Tesla plant and walk in and go,
A Tesla plant.
Tesla
Yeah,
plant.
okay.
Yep,
all
this
right.
is like, well, as close to a production line as possible. Shipbuilding is not a production. I think gentlemen over here would agree. It's an art form more than a production form. And I'd like to be able to go to a plant, a facility and say, this is a production line.
Okay.
We are actually using a modern production process
Yeah.
to build our ships of the future.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Jay. Naval shipbuilding is a extremely labor-intensive business. So what I would like to see is using all of the latest technologies, AI, AM, robots, cobots. We have applied advanced manufacturing techniques so that our workforce is as efficient as they can be. And there's dozens of ways to go about that, and we need to pursue all of them. But a highly engaged workforce that knows what they're doing, has good feedback on their performance, a lot of transparency so that you in a continuous learning organization. I've been at Newport News for 36 years. My family works there, my kids work there. I've convinced them all to go into shipbuilding. And I want that legacy for them. I think it's achievable, and that's my job right now to try to make that happen.
Yeah, and I would agree, fully employing Industry 4.0 as well as Industry 5.0 throughout the yard, 100%. I'd also say that additive manufacturing, the interchangeability with castings or AM is out there fully with every part. I'd also say that agentic AI, fully employing that for ship design is critical. We didn't really talk about that, but the first-to-class ships are just crushing all shipyards, right? It's just tough. It's tough business. So to fully employ agentic AI such that we can rapidly design ships and ship design for producibility is absolutely critical in 2035. So for me, that including the yard and upskilling the workers, also agentic AI for design and design for producibility mainly. So that's where I see 2035.
Well, thank you all. Stephen, Jay, Brian, Don, really appreciate all your insights today. Let's give it up for these four gentlemen.
Thank you, Brooke.